Another interesting, intriguing secret in every traditional community, I think, to some degree. Their intimate lives are better. According to recent studies, indescribably better than the secular model. So two things. First of all, what exactly is intimacy? Because there's an intimacy crisis. Everybody complains that nothing feels intimate. Like the Me Too issues. In the 60s, men and women agreed to make love free. Free love. And it seemed like such a noble concept. No war, love. Free love. It turns out that free love means free of commitment, free of emotion, free of family. Now, all these years later, we're starting to suffer from that freedom. So it's not that men don't respect women. It's not that power can be abused. Those are old stories. What's new is that we have lost respect for intimacy because we've turned love into a free, non-committal, impersonal activity. In the traditional communities, that has not happened. Intimacy is still intimate. It's not free. So there is no sexual revolution. We're still the same creatures we always were. We need intimacy. We don't need more pleasure. This is one of the discoveries in modern psychology. Couples don't need more pleasure. Stop telling them how to get more pleasure. You're making them crazy. It's like somebody stops me and says, and he's looking me over and like looking at my beard, and he says, I'm just curious, do you sleep with the beard on top of the blanket or with your beard under the blanket? He was trying to be funny, but he ruined my sleep. I couldn't sleep after that. Because now I'm so conscious, like, no, under is not working. Try it on top. No, that's not working. Try it. And that's it. You can't sleep anymore. You take something that is so natural and you turn it into some kind of an issue and you ruin it. Right? You want to ruin people's lives? Just ask them if their intimate lives are good. Are you getting the most out of your love life? That's it. You've killed them. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think so. Why? All of a sudden, it's too self-conscious. All of a sudden, it's a performance. All of a sudden, you're inadequate. Like you were never inadequate before, but now all of a sudden. So it kills the intimacy. In traditional communities, to varying degrees, we don't go there. Intimate is intimate, and it's preserved, and it's sacred, and it's private, and it's real. Like somebody wrote, if it's safe, it's not sex. It's too intense and too personal and to be safe. If it's safe, you're doing something else. I don't know what you're doing. It can't be safe. It's got to be intense and risky and a personal involvement, personal vulnerability. So here's what happens. Shaking hands, not very long ago, was considered an intimacy of sorts. Women never offered their hand, and men would never presume that a woman would shake their hand, just not that long ago. The Queen of England shakes hands only when she's wearing a glove. All right, we don't want to use her as a role model, but that was the norm. It was the norm. It was the norm that intimacy happened only in the dark. Remember seeing the reruns of I Love Lucy or The Honeymooners, or they turned off the lamp and you knew, oh, they're being intimate. It was just assumed, the norm. When did that change? I think it was part of the 60s revolution and part of the pornographic invasion. If you're taking a film, if you're making pictures, you have to have the lights on. Otherwise, that's not how you engage in intimacy. Intimacy thrives in privacy, in darkness, in exclusivity. So, for most people, shaking hands stopped being intimate. Just a polite gesture. For us, it's still a little too intimate. So since we're not going to be intimate, don't shake hands. But you see, I mean, this is really a crucial issue that's even a health problem for people. What is intimate? A hug? A kiss? What's intimate? So if you ask these guys who are accused of misbehaving, they have respect for women. I mean, if they didn't, then that's an old problem and they're just not worth bothering with. These are men who do have respect for women. So you ask them, so why did you do what you did? And their answer, I'm sure, is going to be, what? It was nothing. It was nothing. We were just playing. It was fun. When did this become offensive? Didn't we agree that this is just fun? It's not just fun. Intimacy, you can't fool Mother Nature. Intimate is intimate. So one of the rules that we really all should live by, a man and a woman who are not married to each other should not be alone in a closed room. Why? Don't you trust people? Yes. We trust them. But being alone in a closed room is intimate, isn't it? If we lose that sensitivity, if that's not intimate, then when does intimacy begin? When you decide that it's intimate? That's why we have this problem. Oh, you thought I was being intimate? No, I was just having fun. We have to have a definition for intimacy, and the more you reserve for your intimate life, the more satisfying your intimate life will be. So it turns out that in the traditional communities, married couples are much more satisfied in their intimacy than secular couples. So why don't we shake hands? We save the intimacy for the intimate relationships.
But you shake hands between men.
Yeah.
And that's not considered intimate.
It's not the intimacy we want to save for our marriages. It's not competition, you know what I mean? At least it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. But you're right. There are other forms of intimacy that are perfectly okay. But the intimacy you need in your marriage, you want to reserve for your marriage. It really keeps life clear. It's not restrictions. It's this good judgment, discernment. What belongs where, what helps, what doesn't. It's a universal issue. And by the way, the result of not having a really rich, intimate life, the result is you feel alone in the world. And the last book I wrote was because doing marriage counseling, I noticed that something changed in the last 15 years. Couples don't hate each other. They're doing fine. Their marriage is fine, but each of them feels alone in the world. And that's scary, because if you're married, you should never feel alone. That's what marriage is supposed to cure. And yet you have successful marriages and they feel alone. It's because their intimacy is not real. They're roommates. They're not bonding the way they should. So in the end, they each have their own separate existence and they feel alone in the world, and it's a horrible feeling. We're a very lonely generation.